Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, today we're going to look at verses 20 and 21 here in this final section of Psalm 74. We've looked at the entire psalm this week. It's a ground level view of God's judgment, and we have the man on the scene, the reporter on the ground, and he's given us an eyewitness account. And then he comes to himself there in verse 12, and he says, "For God is my king of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth." And then he tells us how God has worked salvation. And then we come to verse 18, and he says, "Remember this." And I just wonder if perhaps he's asking the Lord to remember what he's done in the past, and then also asking him to remember, that the enemy has reproached the Lord. And now he's not talking about the Chaldeans there in 18. He's talking about his own people, the sinners of the people, not the Chaldeans, because they're the ones who have broken the covenant. So today we come to the covenant. "Have respect unto the covenant, for the dark places of the earth are full of the habitations of cruelty. Oh, let not the oppressed return ashamed. Let the poor and needy praise thy name." So that's our verses today, verses 20 and 21. Have respect unto the covenant. Now, the psalmist means here, I think, the psalmist means be merciful, because the covenant is based on God's mercy towards his people. But I think what he misses is that God is executing the covenant. Because you'll recall, when the Lord made covenant with the people, back in Deuteronomy, we have Moses telling the people, if you keep the covenant, here are the blessings. And there's a long list of those blessings. I mean, there's a whole chapter full. I think it's Deuteronomy 25. There's a whole chapter filled with the blessings that come because of keeping righteous ways and doing what the Lord said. But then you have the other chapter, which is, I think it's chapter 26 in Deuteronomy. Check me, because I'm not certain of that. And in that chapter, he says, if you don't keep the covenant, here's the curses that are going to come on you. So in one chapter, the blessings are, the fruitfulness of the body and of the land and great grain, and your flocks and your herds will be fruitful and everything you put your hand to. But then in 26, or the second chapter where the curses are listed, it's just the opposite. Everything withers, there's no prosperity, everything fails, everything's bad, and diseases come on the people. So we have we have both sides of the coin pictured, and then what we're having experienced in Psalm 74 is the reality of breaking the covenant. God's judging hand is bringing in the Chaldeans. They're tearing down the city. Why? Because God gave them ample opportunity. Prophet after prophet after prophet came and spoke, and yet they refused. But now the psalmist, depending on his faith, says, well, God is my king of old. He works salvation in the midst of the earth. He tells us all about that. And then we come here to 20, and he says, have respect unto the covenant. I think he's meaning for the Lord to be merciful, but in a sense, the Lord is executing the covenant just as he promised he would. The dark places of the earth are full of the habitations of cruelty. Well, and that's scary, and so true. Let not the oppressed return ashamed. So now there's some realization, I think, here that they're going to go off into captivity, and they're going to come back. But don't let them come back ashamed. Don't let them do that, but let the poor and needy praise. So, and that's what happens. When the time of Ezra and Nehemiah comes, they return, and there's praise, and they come back in great triumph. All right, well, join me again tomorrow, and we're going to look at the last two verses, 22 and 23, here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.